Good morning. I want to talk today about the upcoming lunar month from October 2nd through November 1st. And there are going to be some interesting things happening this month. So let's see if I can share my screen. This will take just a minute or two as I have to hide some panels so I can see what I'm doing. So just bear with me another few seconds. And here we go. The lunar month, October 2nd through November 1st. This is just an overview, and separate videos. I cover the lunar month for countries and people, things like America, Harris, Trump, Putin, King Charles, Princess Kate, Israel, Hamas, and so on. Okay, first, just a quick review of the last lunar month from September 2nd to October 2nd. Well, the previous lunar month went pretty much as expected. Sextiles from Neptune to both Uranus and Pluto brought a more transcendent perspective into the planet, and many people are beginning to respond to that. I know I feel it, I know some other people feel it. And as I say, this is seen in the various ways that people are now looking for a way forward from many of the conflicts they're now embroiled in. So hopefully beginning to work our way out of some of the wars and other conflicts around the globe. Also, with Jupiter sextile both transiting Chiron and natal Chiron, in the USA chart, the nudge toward joy and transcendence has become part of the Harris-Waltz presidential campaign. And with the eclipse moon occurring in Harris's 10th house, she has gone up in the polls, while with the eclipse moon positioned in Trump's 8th house, he experienced another assassination attempt. On the world stage, transiting Chiron is still on the cusp of Israel's 7th house, and most of the wounding this month has been between Israel and Hezbollah. However, some good news is that Princess Kate finished her chemotherapy just as Jupiter has moved into a sextile relationship with her ascendant. But with Saturn semi-square Pluto, another labor strike is now on the horizon in America. Okay, and here's an overview of the month from October 2nd to November 1st. The month of October will be interesting in many ways. First, the lunar month begins with a solar eclipse. It's going to be in Libra. This eclipse contains some good aspects that will help release a lot of tension. But with the sun and moon in Libra making a moderate square to Mars in Cancer, there will also probably be some notable instances of violence. A trine during the eclipse of Venus to Saturn and Mars, however, will help smooth things out. So it's hard to say how serious aggression will get during this month. We got nudges in both directions, toward war and toward peace. Okay, also, one of the dominant aspects of the month will be Jupiter's sextile Chiron, which will bring forth the sweet, joyous, more transcendent side of that heavenly body. Additionally, on October 11th, Pluto will turn direct just as Jupiter's sextile Chiron becomes exact. And this signals a turn away from authoritarianism and toward the more progressive future of Pluto and Aquarius. I believe as Pluto turns direct, people are going to be yearning for this new reality more and more. Okay, now astronomically, a small asteroid is scheduled to orbit the Earth from October through November. It will be like a second moon. Also, a comet is expected to become visible in the night sky in mid-October. And astronomers say that that comet could possibly be so bright that will be visible during the day also. And a star is expected to go nova sometime this fall, maybe during October. What will happen on Earth in connection with these wildcard celestial events, however, is anyone's guess. Nonetheless, I'm expecting some pivotal events to occur. And just as a reminder, here's a quote from Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. When beggars die, there are no comets seen. The heavens themselves blaze forth the death of princes. Well, I certainly hope there aren't any tragic deaths, but as you can see from this quote, historically there has been a long tradition of pivotal moments occurring whenever a comet is seen in the sky. Okay, if we look at this overview of transits for the month, we see that things don't appear too bad, and the dominant transit, it looks like it's Jupiter sextile Chiron, exact around 11th or 12th, depending upon where you live, and exact again on November 2nd. So this brings out the sweeter, more transcendent side of Chiron, the joy rather than the wounding. So this could help a lot of people heal in October and November. Now we do have this Mars square Chiron is exact on the 13th. That could raise some tensions and cause a little bit of wounding, but the dominant aspect is Jupiter sextile Chiron, and Neptune sextile Pluto, and Uranus are still in effect for most of this lunar month. Uh, for the end of the lunar month, we have Mars in opposition to Pluto, and that becomes exact on November 3rd, near the start of the next lunar month. However, as we'll see, there are going to be some sextiles and trines, which could help make this opposition less severe than it might otherwise be. Okay, if we look at the new moon and the aspects that become exact in the week that follows, well, this October 2nd new moon is going to be a solar eclipse. It's going to occur in Libra, which puts a focus on relationships with others. The first aspect to become exact will be Venus sesquiquadrate Neptune. That can create some confusion, misinformation appealing to the right brain, Venus, or it could also inflame one's passions with all sorts of fantasies. Venus and Scorpio, the right brain gets carried away by its desires, its passions. Neptune, fantasy dreams. These could be good dreams, they could be bad dreams. Then we have Sun's sesquiquadrate Uranus. Most of these aspects just last maybe a couple of days. So in that sense, they're not too severe. And we have kind of a mix of hard aspects, soft aspects, changing aspects, and planets going retrograde. But with Sun sesquiquadrate Uranus, we'll have a couple of days where unexpected events could occur. Expect the unexpected, as we say. But that's followed by Venus trine Saturn, which is going to be more stabilizing. And this will work more to toward bringing our dreams into reality. Saturn has been in Pisces for some time now. It doesn't function its best there, but basically, think of Pisces as visions and dreaming. Saturn likes things concrete. So it's planning things that it wants to be brought into reality. The trine with Venus and Scorpio, that will help people bring some of these visions into reality. Then we have Sun quincunx, Saturn, which means that adjustments will have to be made, particularly in terms of relationships with others. And that is followed by Venus trine Mars, and it's also approaching this trine with Saturn, completing a grand trine. That Let's see, the Venus trine Saturn, that happened a little bit earlier, a few days earlier than Venus trine Mars, but this grand trine gets completed, and that is going to help reduce a lot of tensions on the days that those trines occur. So that's something to look forward to. But at the end of the week, we get into Jupiter going retrograde. Jupiter is in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini, it expands thoughts and ideas and curiosity about things and invention. Uh, it has to do with the brain and with communication. And along with Aquarius, it's having an impact on uh, artificial intelligence. So the expansion that has been going on in these areas, well, this is another period where people will pause to rethink things, just like when Pluto in Aquarius went retrograde and went back into Capricorn. That brought about a pause on all this new technology where people are now wondering what sorts of regulations do we need on this technology. Jupiter going retrograde in Gemini is going to bring out some other pause on invention and expansion of ideas. Okay, and here we can see when these aspects will be exact in the first week. And Venus is trine Saturn on the 4th and trine Mars on the 8th. So that's going to bring in some pleasant things between October 4th and October 8th of this first week. And here you can see when these aspects will be within orb and when they'll be exact. You can see this a graphical sort of way. Okay, Venus, quincunx Saturn, that denotes some adjustments between October 5th and October 7th. All right, now if we get into the first quarter moon, we've got actually kind of a nice balance of all the major kinds of aspects, hard aspects, soft aspects, aspects that require change or adjustment. Uh, and also, we have Pluto switching from moving retrograde to direct. So let's see what we have here. We begin with Venus making a quincunx to Jupiter, and that's going to be followed uh, quincunx to Chiron. So Venus in Scorpio, this is our right nonverbal brain. In Scorpio, the desires for all sorts of things are heightened. With Jupiter and Chiron both making a quincunx to Venus, this is suggesting adjustments that have to be made. We will have a few days here in which we have to focus on making adjustments to those things we desire. Uh, if we do this successfully, what happens is we move away from our personal perspective to a larger perspective. With Jupiter, we take a broader perspective on things, and with Chiron, um, we're looking more to the transcendent side of things, where Chiron nudges us to move from the visible world to the invisible world. And this is going to be some higher spiritual perspective, which is like an octave above Jupiter. So there's going to be pressure for people to let go of their passions and desires and make some adjustments as Venus makes the quincunx with Jupiter, and then that's followed by the quincunx with Saturn. That in turn is going to be followed by Pluto becoming stationary direct. It will no longer be moving retrograde, and it will be moving closer and closer back to its re-entry into Aquarius, where it will spend the next 20 years. So the time for reflection is over. The time for revisiting uh, authoritarian rulers is over. The time for rethinking regulations for artificial intelligence and other things is over. Now we have to take action. And as I say, Pluto will be at 29 plus degrees of Capricorn. I think it and people are eager for it to move into Aquarius and for some newer reality, some new perspective to take center stage. People are tired of the way things have been. They want to get on to democracy, power being shifted back to the people. They want new technology. They want humanitarian concerns in the world to be addressed. They want people to work together. And this is going to be followed by Jupiter sextile Chiron. And as I have said many times, this brings out the joyous, transcendent side of Chiron. And so, whatever else is going on in a negative way, this will really help ameliorate things quite a bit. Now, let's see. Following this, we have Mars square Chiron. Well, that will produce a few days of tension, which could result in wounding. Though the previous Jupiter sextile Chiron, that will help lessen the blow, I believe. So hopefully nothing too bad will happen. Uh, Mars is going to be making a semi-sextile to Jupiter. The conjunction occurred last August, not long before the Democratic National Convention in America, with the conjunction of Jupiter with Mars in Gemini back in August. That stimulates new ideas, new thoughts, uh, new perspectives and ways of looking at things. And at the semi-sextile, we now want to begin to implement that initial vision that occurred at the conjunction. Next, we'll have a day or two of Sun opposite Chiron. And again, that's when some wounding to the world could occur. But that's going to be followed by Sun trine Jupiter, which is going to be very beneficial and very pleasant. But then we get to Sun square Mars. And again, you could get into some tensions, conflict, and aggressive situations. That's followed by Venus opposite Uranus, which again could cause something unexpected to happen. That could be unexpected good or unexpected bad. Unexpected good is like when you go, aha, and you have a sudden creative idea, a sudden breakthrough in something. Uh, so hopefully we'll get more of that rather than sudden chaos that is detrimental. And the last aspect, to become exact, in this week following the first quarter moon is Venus trine Neptune, and that too will feel very pleasant, even if Neptune is only creating an illusion. This is like the cosmic morphine. Neptune will dissolve all those harsh boundaries and barriers, and our right brains are going to feel very pleasant. So this can be brought about through rest, through music, but it should be a day or two of some exquisite pleasantness. Okay, and here you can see when each of these aspects will become exact. And we have Pluto uh, going direct and Jupiter making a sextile with Chiron on the same day. Where I'm at, I think this is the 11th. Earlier, I had a graph saying Jupiter sextile Chiron will be exact on the 12th. Well, I probably have these calculations being done for two different places in the world geographically. So some places it's on the 11th, other places these aspects occur on the 12th. Uh, Following that on the 13th, we have Saturn uh, square Chiron, Mars square Chiron, semisextile Jupiter, the Sun making an opposition to Chiron, but also Sun trine Jupiter. So the 13th, that's going to be a kind of a mixed bag that day. We have some definite negative aspects that can cause wounding. Mars square Chiron, Sun opposite Chiron. But at the same time, Sun trine Jupiter, that is going to open up some new paths and vistas to travel. That's going to make things feel better. But that's followed by Sun square Mars on the next day, the 14th, and Venus is in opposition to Uranus on that day. So we're probably going to get some mixed results around October 13th and 14th. And we end on the 15th on a pleasant note with Venus trine Neptune. Okay, again, here you can look at this graph to see when each of those aspects will be in effect, when they'll be exact. And the aspect that predominates is Jupiter sextile Chiron. And that is a good thing because that's going to be a good influence that will be reinforced by Sun trine Jupiter, but Sun opposite Chiron, Mars square Chiron in the middle of all this, and Sun square Mars. These things kind of overlap, and that brings in some tensions middle of the month. And now we arrive at the full moon on October 17th. And it has a few different aspects. We start with Venus sextile Pluto. That is going to be empowering to people. Uh, Individuals will feel empowered. Their right brains, their attitudes, their values about things will feel uh, strong and empowered at that moment. And then Venus will enter into Sagittarius. And when that happens, the shift is more on uh, exchanges of ideas with others, communication with the thoughts of others, and also on travel. So anything that can get other people to start talking with one another, that can be a good thing. That's going to be followed by some quincunx Uranus, which is then followed by some quincunx Neptune. Basically, some higher vibrations are trying to force their way into our conscious awareness at this point. With some quincunx Uranus, you might feel a little hyper that day. With some quincunx Neptune, you can feel a little disoriented, dizzy, or confused that day. But what's really going on is higher modes of thinking are trying to break through into your conscious awareness so that you can be consciously creative and consciously spiritual and transcendent. So, these are aspects of adjustment, but they're also going to be times of opportunity for people to grow and advance. That's followed by Sun sesquiquadrate Saturn. That's where people are going to feel more restricted for a few days. Followed by Sun square Pluto. They'll feel a little bit of oppression. And then by Venus sesquiquadrate Chiron, where they can feel wounded. So the latter part of the week is going to be a little bit more tense. And then the Sun will enter Scorpio where again, the focus is going to be more on strong feelings about things, death and transformation, and debt, the money of other people and money owed to others. But the month will end with people having very strong feelings about things. And in America, that will be understandable because the uh, presidential election, November 5th, that will be fast approaching. Okay, this shows when things will become exact. And we can see that a lot of these harsher aspects are going to be around October 20th, 22nd. So the week starts off nice and pleasant, but then the winds or the tide will turn, the winds will change. And here you can see graphically when each of these aspects will take place and when each one will be exact. So October 22nd, that can be a little tense day, as can October 20th. And let's see. My. Okay. And now we get to the third quarter moon, helping us finish out the month. And there are going to be even more tense aspects this week. So tension is going to increase as we go through this lunar month. Again, remember we have those wildcard events. That'll be very interesting. It's expected that there will be a bright comet in the sky mid-month, and we're going to get that small asteroid orbiting Earth for 2 months, like a second moon. And we might even have a star go nova this month. So, a lot of interesting things going on. Well, the week of the third quarter moon, we start with Mars sextile Uranus. That is going to help bring creativity into action. This will probably bode well financially since Mars is in Taurus, which has to do with possessions, values, finances, etc. Mars is in Cancer, which has to do with personal security. So, good financial news could certainly make us feel more secure. But that's followed by Venus making a sesquiquadrate to Mars. So, there are going to be some things going on which can make people's right brains, their nonverbal brains, feel a little bit more aggressive. For some, however, this might be just a few nights that are very passionate, as Mars can also inflame the passions of Venus in a pleasurable way. And that's going to be followed by Mars trine Saturn. So now visions of peace are kicking in and helping out. So that'll be good. But the remaining aspects for the week are all hard. Venus square Saturn, again, people's feelings and right brains or values are going to feel restricted. Sun sesquiquadrate Jupiter. Uh, Jupiter is a drive toward growth and expansion. Whenever we have a tense aspect involving Jupiter, that means that that drive toward growth is not coordinating well with the other planetary drive, and that's when uh, people tend to go overboard. They tend to overreach. Growth gets out of control. So something is going to promote out of control growth. That could be individual spending or spending for a nation that gets out of control. But some actions that are over the top uh, will be more likely to occur during the day or two that this aspect is in effect. Mars sesquiquadrate Saturn, that is going to be a little bit more serious because Mars and Saturn are considered malefics. This is aggression, this is restriction. That's sesquiquadrate is going to create a few days of frustration, which could lead to violence. And then we have Venus making a semi-square with Pluto. Again, people's right brains, their feelings are not going to be in sync with the powers that are out there. And that can result in oppression, or violence of some sort. Okay, again, here we can see when these aspects will be in effect. And the worst times, actually, it's October 27th through 29th. We have this one good aspect on the 28th, Mars making that trine to Neptune. On the 27th, we have Venus uh, making a sesquiquadrate to Mars. That kind of foreshadows some of the tense aspects to follow. And once we get past Mars trine Neptune on the 28th and 29th, we have a series of harsh aspects. And here we can look at the graph to see how long each one will be in effect. The good news is that Mars, sextile Uranus, and trine Neptune, those aspects are going to be in effect throughout most of the month. That will help lessen the impact of some of the negative aspects. On the 28th, we got Sun square Saturn. I'm sorry, Venus square Saturn, Sun sesquiquadrate Jupiter, Mars sesquiquadrate Saturn. That last one becomes exact on the 29th, as does Venus semi-square Pluto. So last couple of days here, last 2 or 3 days, 27th through 29th or 30th, that could be uh, fairly tense. But the trine, Mars trine Neptune, that's going to help out. Okay, and this brings us to the end of the October lunar month. The next lunar month begins on November 1st. Over here, these are not the aspects that will be an exact uh, during the week following this November 1st full moon, but just simply the aspects that we see within orb over here in this diagram. We do have Mars in opposition to Pluto, which becomes exact on the 3rd of November. We do have Mercury in opposition to Uranus coming up. That can at best, that results in a lot of creative ideas and breakthroughs. At worst, it's just a descent into chaos. Uh, Brains becoming too manicky and just chattering gibberish, and too many unexpected things with communication happening. But the good news, particularly with the Mars opposite Pluto, which could be very violent, and being exact on November 3rd, that's just right before the presidential election in America, so that's a cause of concern. But look at all the good aspects. Look over here at all the blue lines, all the trines and sextiles. You've got a grand trine here, topped by a mini grand trine, which makes this a kite formation. So, whereas Mars in opposition to Pluto is going to create a certain kind of pressure, we got some release valves here to channel that pressure, that drive for action and for transformation. So these urges may be channeled in beneficial directions. We have another mini grand trine here and another mini grand trine. What I'm calling a mini grand trine, that's a trine and two sextiles involving 3 planets. And this creates here another kite formation, this mini grand trine, and that helps release the tension and pressure of Uranus in opposition to Mercury. Okay, and then we also have this very nice rectangle where we got sextile, trine, sextile, trine. I think that may be called a mystic rectangle. Maybe misquoting myself, but either way, it's going to help coordinate and release a lot of tension. And Chiron making a trine to Venus uh, and a sextile to Pluto. That's another opposition we have here. That is going to uh, help reduce the tension here by bringing in these higher, more transcendent, and more healing energies. So, this is all going to be very interesting. We have interesting astronomical events happening in October, which could produce some wildcard events on Earth. We begin the month with a solar eclipse, which makes that new moon more powerful. We have stresses that build as the month goes on, but at this next new moon, right before the presidential election, just looking not at the aspects forming, but those that are within orb of being exact, either whether they're forming or separating, there is a lot of harmony here, a lot of coordination that will help us in America and abroad deal with the tensions. This could bode well for the presidential election. It still looks like a close race. And on November 5th, there are aspects which benefit each candidate. And of course, the astrology might result in one candidate winning, but the distortion caused by America's Electoral College could once again result in the candidate receiving a minority of the vote actually becoming president. So things could still work out either very well or very badly for America. Here's a scan where you can see where some of these aspects will tend to be clustered. And here is another bar graph showing how things will be working out aspect-wise in the month. And again, the dominant aspect, or one of the dominant aspects, is that Jupiter sextile Chiron. That will be very joyous, very beneficial. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. And it's going to be exact again on November 2nd, again, just a few days before the presidential election. And it's also exact on the 11th, a day after the vice presidential debate. So, very, very interesting. And here's where we have about maybe 3 days of Mars opposition to Pluto. Well, a little bit more than 3 days. It's exact on the 3rd, but within a degree of orb from October 31st through November 6th. So, like I said, uh, it may not be a completely bad month, but I expect October is going to be quite a month and have some surprises in there for all of us. Okay, and that's going to be the end of this presentation on the lunar month. Let me stop sharing. Okay, and I'm back. So I hope everything in this upcoming lunar month from October 2nd through November 1st works out for the best rather than the worst. We usually get sort of the average of the two, if you will. Sometimes we exceed expectations, like we did that in August. Things worked out in line with what was expected, but better than expected. We got an above average performance of things. And I'm hoping that we have the same during October. But either way, uh, It should be a very interesting month with a lot of interesting things going on. And even though we're still in September, part of me feels like I'm already in mid-October. It's like, something senses the things to come. And they could be good, they could be bad, but some of them will probably be extraordinary. So, uh, enjoy the month, keep an eye on things, see how things work out, do what you can to make things work out for the best and not for the worst. Always respond in the most positive way that you can to these influences, and that will help make this a better world for all of us. And in the meantime, I'll say so long and be well.